Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz & Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz & Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Barbie Liss. She is a maternal empowerment coach and advocate for restorative justice based right here in Toronto. How are you doing today, Barbie?
I'm good. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the podcast and be a guest here and share a bit about your story and your journey and be part of the Empowerography community. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to jumping in and chatting with you today.
Yeah, thanks. Honored to be here.
So, Barbie, as I mentioned, you're a maternal empowerment coach, an advocate for restorative justice, and last but certainly not least, a mother. How long have you been a maternal empowerment coach?
So I've been doing the work for 3 years. I've been doing it full time since the pandemic started. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of us have had to pivot and change things due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it inspired me to do a full career shift, and I just realized this is where I'm truly called. So it's now my full-time work.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us what a maternal empowerment coach does and what that's all about?
Yeah, for sure. So what I do is I work with mothers to help them reclaim themselves and that inner spark that they had when they came here, so that they can live with purpose and fulfillment and rise empowered through all the stages and ages and experiences that we go through. I also advocate for women in general and for restorative justice, and I look to bridge the gender gap that has been created by a patriarchal system. So I call myself an unteacher of societal messaging and a perspective shapeshifter to give a better perspective for all of us going forward.
Amazing. So what inspired you or influenced your decision to become a maternal empowerment coach?
Yeah, so really it was based and rooted in my own personal healing journey, which led me on a path of self-reclamation and awareness of the deep societal need for shift. And I became very passionate about my learning, and I came to feel that it was truly bigger than myself and needed to be shared, and it really pushed me into a journey of helping others to reclaim themselves.
I love it. There's no feeling like helping other people and giving back in that way. It's just the most amazing thing when you can contribute and impact someone's life in a positive manner.
Definitely. It fills my soul. Definitely. Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned that you work with mothers to reclaim self so they can live with purpose and fulfillment through all stages of experiences in life. Can you talk a bit about that mantra of yours and what that means to you personally?
Yeah, for sure. I believe that women take on so many roles in our lifetime, from daughter to friend to partner to mother to grandmother to, to employee, employer, whatever it is. There's so many roles that we take on. And at the same time, we are notorious nurturers. We nurture the whole planet. But I find that more often than not, we forget to nurture ourselves, and it becomes depleting after a while. So what you do from heart as a nurturer ends up depleting you and leaving you feeling kind of like you've lost yourself kind of somewhere along the way. And I find that through different stages and our ages that we hit, that women of my own generation with grown children, we've sort of lost our way in becoming the elders of a community in a society that promotes so much anti-aging. We're kind of doing a disservice to ourselves and to our daughters. So I really embrace that message with my clients, really in all the stages that we experience. There's so much purpose and so much learning, and we need to learn to embrace ourselves in truth, put aside all those messages we've been taught and really embody all that we're meant to be.
Yeah, I think the media plays a huge role in that in terms of influencing on how women should be portrayed, how women should look, how women should feel, and
Definitely.
the perfect body and it's ridiculous. These standards are absolutely impossible to adhere to or live up to.
Yeah, they're not attainable and they're not realistic. And they've given us this image of what we should. There's a whole pile of shoulds that we've been handed. Yeah. And it's not attainable. So as a result, we end up feeling not good enough or not enough. And it's depleting and it's diminishing. And many women, I'd say most women, feel diminished, feel a little bit squished, and they know somewhere in their soul there's this fire that's supposed to be blazing, and it's not. And that's what I work to reclaim.
Amazing. I love that. And the fact too, I mean, think about that on the other side of things with these young kids now that have access to social media and the message that's sending them. And then they've got this unreal expectation that they've got to look this way and they've got to feel this way. And it starts at a very young age, and that needs to be stopped. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And that's what I speak about. Well, firstly, to your first point, that the beauty industry makes not my language, but a whole lot of...
No, you can swear. It's okay.
Okay, a shitload of money every year on making us feel worthless. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's a big industry that it's hard to stop it. But I think that if we can learn to question a little bit more and look at the truth of how we really feel about it and not get pulled into that, then we can embrace ourselves a little bit more. And to your second point, it is for the young kids coming up. They need our example. So if they're watching their mother get on the scale and cry every morning, then they know, what message are we giving our children? If they watch us celebrating ourselves and empowering ourselves, then that's the message they receive. So
that's right.
I speak to every age and stage.
Yeah, I think, and especially at a young age, these values, we as parents, that's our responsibility and our job to instill these values so that it just becomes natural. It becomes inherent. It becomes part of their DNA that this is how things should be. Don't worry about the scale. Don't worry about comparing. Don't worry about these impossible beauty standards that are put out there by the media and social media. It's unrealistic. And we need to combat that as parents from starting at a very young age.
Yeah, absolutely. It's harmful to ourselves because we aren't embracing our age, and we're those of us that are like in the over 50 crowd and over 55 crowd, like we're at a stage of life where we can come back to ourselves to celebrate ourselves. That wise woman archetype is a very privileged one to be sitting in. And instead of being filled with the fear of it, which we're offering our daughters a fear of aging, we should be embracing it and offering them the wisdom that they require so that they can walk their path with confidence. Yeah.
I mean, there are a few companies that come to mind that are hopping on that bandwagon where they're portraying different body types and things like that, which is great. I just think a shit ton more companies need to get involved and hop on that movement and be part of it and show the public that, hey, this is what normal looks like, not this.
Yeah. And it doesn't, you're not defined by what you look like.
No, absolutely
defined
not.
By the soul within you. And if we could celebrate each other instead of judging and criticizing and having unrealistic expectations, then we could heal this whole thing. Right?
Exactly. But it has to start with that, right? I mean, absolutely. I think, everything starts with self, and then of course our children, and it carries outward from that.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's why I love working with women to help them reclaim that self. Yes. And I also will I will offer only virtually now, but I love doing this live as a women's circle where we're learning and we're sharing and we're unlearning and we're sharing, and it's very powerful. Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned unlearning or unteaching. Can you tell me a bit about that?
We've been handed so many messages that we've just absorbed and accepted without really thinking about it. And maybe today's generation, like my kids, I know question more, but for myself, I can say I grew up in a because I said so as a decent answer generation.
Yes.
Right? So if because I said so was an answer, I even as a kid never felt like I had the answer, but I accepted it because I said so, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't question things, and we were offered all kinds of messages that was just because I said so, and we stopped questioning. And so many of those messages are damaging. And so I say, like, I'm going to unteach the messages that you received from outside. I'm going to unteach the messages that you absorbed in your own story that may or may not have been the right message. And we're going to undo that so that we can rewrite it and edit and heal forward so that you can move forward with a more truthful, clear perspective of who you really are.
So essentially reprogramming someone's way of thinking or state or mindset.
Yeah, like we all create stories. Like we all
Yes.
have a story, and our story is based on messages and lessons we received from birth onwards. And sometimes we put together a story that, you know, we believe to be true, but it might not have been the true story, but we built on it anyway. Or it was a true story and it damaged, and we feel guilt and we feel shame and all these things that didn't need to be applied, but get absorbed into our bones. And so if we can undo some of those messages and offer them a more healthy, compassionate, clear perspective, then we can begin to, like I said, reclaim that truth of soul.
That speaks to why I think it's so important for us as parents, again, going back to that, is instilling these values in our kids from a very young age. I mean, I know my wife and I, with our daughters, we always instilled in them from a young age that you can do anything you want in life. You just have to work for it, put in the work, but don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And never depend upon a man for anything. Depend upon yourself. You are all you have in this world. So you've got to depend on you and get through and be strong. And so we've always tried to instill those values in our girls. And I think that's what parents need to do.
Yeah.
So it just gets ingrained. As you said, it gets into their bones. It just becomes part of who they are, their belief system.
Well, you're going to spend your whole life with you. You have to have a healthy relationship with you.
That's right. 100%. Now, you're a mother of 3 children, and one of those 3 went through an incredibly traumatic experience, which changed both of your lives forever. Can you talk a bit about that experience?
Yeah, for sure. It's a key piece in my journey, for sure, and in hers. At the end of 2016, when my daughter was 21, she was raped by a stranger. And that led to her healing journey, which, you know, I won't get into, but I'm sure many people can sort of try to imagine. But it also led to my healing journey. And I speak a lot today to moms of survivors because there's not a lot out there for us. It was a journey that I found kind of unseen and unheld. And, you know, my journey was dealing with my journey while I was holding her up and watching her struggle to choose to want to keep existing was traumatic for me. So it did launch a journey. I see there's 3 parts. There's her healing journey, there's my healing journey, and there's our healing journey, which we navigated together kind of step by step. And it was, when you sit down there on the bottom, it pushes you into a real hole, you know, and when you sit down there, you start questioning and wondering, and you learn a lot while you're sitting at the bottom. That's where all my unlearning happened.
Yeah, for sure. Now, that must have brought the 2 of you quite close together, going through that experience together and being there for her and being her support system as a mother.
Yeah, and we always had a close relationship, but I think that you can't journey like that and not develop something unique and different. But yes, we had we did that dance of healing. You know, I really had to learn a whole new way of mothering because it was working, and I learned, you know, a whole different way of holding space or holding compassion or being there for somebody in a way that I never knew existed before. We rose so beautifully together, though, and we today offer retreats together, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, it has turned into something quite beautiful.
yeah, some good actually came out of this horrible experience.
A lot of good. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, how did your other children and their relationships with you factor into all this? Like, how did they factor into this whole situation, and how did your relationships grow or strengthen, or did they at all through this experience with your other two children?
Yeah, well, I will speak to, and I can come back to it in a little bit, but it definitely ripples. Like when somebody gets harmed, it doesn't just affect the somebody who's harmed. It ripples through your family, through her friends, through her, like it ripples. And it definitely impacted my other kids. Absolutely. And I guess in some ways it probably will be forever changed, but she's blessed to have a supportive family and one that loves her very much and held her beautifully through it. For us, for her and I, so she is my baby one. So the other two were out already on their own. And she and I, what I would say, we cocooned ourselves into our home for about a year. And it was we created a space of healing and healing energy, and she was getting help, I was getting help, but it was a very supportive, loving space of healing that definitely brought us to a different level. Absolutely.
Did it bring your relationships with your other two children to a different level as well, or was it more just focused on you and your daughter?
So at the time, I think that my focus was on me and my daughter. I think the rest of my world kind of blew away. I mean, they were obviously, everybody was still present and I adore my kids. But even my work life and my life with my friends and my partner and like everything just kind of like, it went on hold because I was in this vortex of, making one survive. Like her choice was, do I quit now or do I keep living? And when your child goes through that, there's like really nothing else that matters, and you'll deal with the rest of it later.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Barbie, as mentioned earlier, you're an advocate for restorative justice. Did this journey into the road of restorative justice begin with, or was it as a result of your daughter's trauma? And can you tell us a bit about what restorative justice is?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So restorative justice is not a new system. It's an indigenously based system that's been used forever in their cultures, and Jewish cultures and other cultures have used it as well. And it's just not widely used here. What restorative justice is a method of healing that focuses on repair rather than punishment, as our judicial system does.
Okay.
It honors that there is a ripple effect to a crime. So there's the person who's harmed, the person who's caused harm, but it ripples outward into a community. So, for example, I'm a ripple, right?
Yeah.
And so it honors very much the person who's been harmed as having a voice, which again, our judicial system does not.
Right.
Right. So, yes, we got wrapped in a restorative justice system because my daughter fought for it. We had never heard of it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
What happens when you're assaulted is you go to the police, you're given two options. Do you want to report this or do you not want to report this? Do you want to press charges or not press charges?
Right.
And, her thinking in the moment was, well, I don't want nothing. So sure. Right.
Yeah.
But also you're very vulnerable when you go to the police. So there's really,
of course,
the process isn't very clear. Anyways, we did go through the whole prelim trial process. There was a preliminary trial, and it is nothing less than re-traumatizing all over again. We'd had a year of intense healing, and that was definitely a setback. It's an ugly system where she sat on the stand for 5 hours while her stories being ripped apart, or tried to prove where she was, at fault, and it's shaming. It's very ugly.
I can't even imagine what your daughter must have gone through to have to relive that experience and then have someone try and tear it down and say that it didn't happen.
It's very ugly, and they try to find holes in your story, and they ask questions that are very irrelevant and traumatizing all over again. And it's not a healthy system.
It's almost like victimization of the victim.
100%.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%. It's victim shaming and victim blaming all the way, because you have this defendant, who's it's his lawyer that's standing there trying to make him get off. So they're going to prove that, it wasn't what you're saying it is, and it's your word versus his. So it's not a healing system, that's for sure. And following that, they decided there was enough evidence to go to a full trial. And she said to me, like, I don't know if I can. And I didn't blame her. Like, I didn't blame her for any of that. I mean, I'll try to condense this because really this is a 3-year journey. But she kept saying, I just want him to look me in the eye and tell me how he could do this to another woman. That's really all she wanted. And one day she mentioned it to somebody who said to her, so make it happen. And she threw it out there, and we found out about restorative justice. And it wasn't a simple path for her. I mean, she got help from a lawyer and the person, and two actually, one who put her job on the line for this.
Yeah.
And she fought to have a restorative justice outcome, which our system doesn't want. And in fact, it is in our Bill of Rights to have that, but nobody knows that. No one knows that. And even the lawyers don't seem to know about it.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. So at the end, she did manage. She fought hard for it. It took a good part of a year. I mean, the restorative justice circle we had was 3 years post-rape. So
wow,
what that meant in the short story is that he began intensive therapy. The circle wasn't going to happen until his therapist decided he was ready for the circle to happen. And so like I said, 3 years post-rape, we sat in a restorative justice circle. There was 7 of us. There was her, my daughter, myself, my other daughter, and the 2 lawyers that helped her. And he came with a friend, and they let us off. There was 2 facilitators. They let us off with the question, what brings you here today? And there's a talking piece. So the only person speaking is the one with the talking piece. And we went for 8 hours. We sat in that circle. We took some breaks. But truly, it was the most transformative day of my life. And
really?
I would have thought that the day she was raped changed my life, and it did. It absolutely did.
Of course.
And it launched me on a whole journey and changed me as a human. But that day, sitting in that circle and offering voice and receiving accountability and holding compassion and empathy and forgiveness and all these things, when you can voice them, leads to true healing and transformation. So now we have a person who caused harm, who in our judicial system, either A, would have got off with nothing, because that usually is what happens, or B, been put away for a few months or whatever, and then he would have come out and like, what's changed? Nothing's changed. This way, he's gone through therapy. He's sat in a circle like this that was gut-wrenching and powerful and beautiful and every emotion. And now he comes out a transformed person with a better perspective of society, a better kind of human. And that's the message he's going to offer forward. And I don't think any one of the 7 of us left that room that day without being changed forever. I felt like I didn't even realize how much was stuck in my body. I felt like I could float when I left that room. Like it was so healing to watch her receive everything she needed, to listen to her say everything she's had to say for 3 years, for me to have the opportunity to say everything I had to say for 3 years, and hear him respond to me. That is truly what healing is meant to be. That, our judicial system, even when there's a conviction, I don't think anybody walks out of there feeling any better. We all walked out of there healed.
Pretty incredible. I mean, but it's very different, and I'm shocked that this isn't talked. Well, I guess I really shouldn't be shocked that it's not talked about more and that more people don't know about it. But you got to look at it on the other side of things too. Is that really? I mean, some people would say or would argue that that's not enough punishment for what has been done. He ripped someone's life to pieces.
So I hear that a lot. And that's like the two things that I get asked most often are like, did he get off easy, and how can you forgive? Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do not think he got off easy. I think that he went through several months of intensive therapy, learning about consent culture, learning about whatever else he learned about in that space, healing whatever wounds he had. I do believe that, like I said, we all have a story. No one's born a bad seed.
No, true.
Right. And so, I think it took him a lot of courage to sit in that 8-hour circle. It was probably 2 hours before he was allowed to say a word. And he spent those 2 hours listening to each one of us tell him how he ripped our lives apart. Mm-hmm. That is not getting off easy. And then he had to explain himself and offer remorse and look her in the eye, which he did. Mm-hmm. And, that's, I give him credit for that. That takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And he did express that he would like to possibly one day help forward, speak to groups of young boys to explain and, help heal the patriarchal damage that we're healing on our end, like to come from him. This is a person who's caused a horrific crime and is now wanting to be part of the healing. And that to me is what justice is. That's what should happen when a crime happens. Our mentality of an eye for an eye is one of those messages I'd like to unteach. Like it doesn't serve, revenge doesn't help anybody. No, it doesn't heal anybody. It doesn't transform anybody. This is a transformative process, and he now comes out a better person. So on the forgiveness piece, I would say I will never forgive him for what he actually did, but I definitely forgive the human, and I hold compassion to whatever story he lived that took him to do such a thing. And I wish him healing. This is how we heal. This is, our system doesn't allow healing. Our system is just punishable and, and this system actually transforms people into being better people. That's what we need.
One could argue, though, that it wasn't enough 8 hours sitting with you and your daughter and 2 or 3 months of therapy isn't enough punishment for the crime. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. But I see on the other side of it too, you're right. Like it doesn't do any good to just throw them in jail and lock them away and just hope that they come out a better person, hope that they get reformed. But one could also say, just because they've sat in this circle for 8 hours or however, I imagine it's different for every case that goes through this process, the amount of time they sit. But you could say that, it's okay. So he admitted what he did. He listened to what we did. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change him, just like prison. It doesn't necessarily mean that throwing them in prison and punishing them for the crime is going to fix the problem either.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few pieces to that answer.
Okay.
I think that in prison, nothing happens. And I always compare that to being a child and being sent to my room.
Right.
When they said, don't go to your room and think about what you did.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I went to my room and I thought about what I did from my own perspective. And I came out still sort of pissed off, but nothing changed. My parents seemed to have cooled down. So we let it go. Right. Yeah. And nothing changes. And I think the same thing happens in prison. But, with my own kids, when they did something, I'd send them upstairs to cool off a little bit. And then I'd go in and I'd say what happened there? What were you, and then we'd have a conversation about it and I'd help them see a better alternative. And then, go downstairs and give your brother a hug and say you're sorry. And now there's a change. Now there's a learning. There's a teaching. Let's, instead of taking our moments of that we would consider punishable moments, I think we make them teachable moments. Then we change. I would say on the restorative justice end, on our story, first off, that anybody who chooses to have a restorative outcome, it looks different for each person. So it's up to the survivor how it's going to look.
Right.
So also, it was several months of therapy that went through. And if his therapist hadn't felt he was ready yet, we still wouldn't have had our circle.
Okay.
So she decided, or he or whatever, decided that he was ready for this. And the circle was 8 hours because that's how our circle went. They told us at the beginning that we would stay there as long as it took for everybody to feel they said everything they had to say.
Okay.
And for everybody to feel that they felt complete, that they felt they had received what they needed. And and ours ended up being 8 hours. And I can tell you from sitting across from him, his energy, his body language, his tears, his everything, like he is a changed person. I have no doubt that he is a changed person. You know, I would love to know what he does with his life one day.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that in our story, this is a transformation for the better, and everybody walked out healed. And, you know, even from his end, to be able to learn whatever he learned in therapy, and to be able to look at my daughter and say, and take accountability. I mean, I think of times that I've harmed somebody unintentionally, even in a small way, even with a word, you know, and I don't get a chance to apologize. It eats me up. So he had a chance to air what he had to air, and to show remorse and offer an apology. And, you know, it's hard to give words to the feeling that happened in that room. It was truly what healing is. Our justice system just perpetuates a cycle of hurting people. And this actually perpetuates a cycle of heal people forward and transform. And that's what the world needs, not revenge. We don't need revenge. We need healing.
It's definitely an interesting way of dealing with crimes. And I mean, I'm not leaning towards one way or the other. I'm just very curious. I've never heard of this method of justice. And I would just think that some people would think that, okay, again, he sat there for 8 hours. He listened to us. He listened to our side. And then he apologized. Okay, but what?
It makes it sound really simple. Like the way you describe it, it sounds like yes. And I know there's a lot of people think, my daughter always says, like, people think we're very kumbaya. And it was like a little circle. It really wasn't like that. It was an incredibly intense, gut-wrenching, horrific, also beautiful and healing. And he didn't just sit and listen. Like, you should have heard the things he had to listen to, and he wasn't allowed to say a word. Right. And his, you know, his face was red, his hand was on his heart, his tears were in his eyes. It was not an easy thing at all. When you have to sit in a room and listen to, you know, imagine just in a simple story of your own life, when you've done something and you have to listen to people say how much you harmed them. It's not easy to hear it. So I would say, again, it's not for everybody. It was definitely for her. And it was definitely for me. And I think what should happen in that very initial moment when you go to the police, they need to say, do you want to press charges? Do you not want to press charges? Or be aware that there's a third option. Right. Yes. Wish to have it. Right. And at the moment, it's not offered. It should be offered.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to simplify the process or what you all went at all. I'm just playing devil's advocate of what I'm sure, and I'm sure you've heard it all.
I have heard it all, and I'm happy to, like, I love having the conversation.
Yeah, I'm just very curious. I think it's interesting. Now, can I ask you, let's say I'm the victim of a crime, such as similar to what your daughter went through. I go in to report it. Can anyone who is a victim of a crime of such a nature request this form of justice?
So our understanding is that she is the first case in North America to use restorative justice in a sexual assault case as a court mandated outcome. So restorative justice has been used for many, many things, but our understanding is in North America, she is the first to use it in a sexual assault case. So the answer to your question is, I really hope that it sets precedent. She's gotten widespread media attention.
I'm sure.
And I hope that, and we have been, both of us, flooded with inquiries from survivors, from allies of survivors, from moms of survivors.
No doubt.
Saying, please tell me, this is all I ever wanted. How do I go about this? How would I, and you know, the healing on that, it's huge.
I'm sure.
I hope so. I hope that, you know, if nothing else, I hope that it's offered as a third option when it's reported.
Yeah, I would just be very curious if someone just walked into the police station to report a crime. I mean, not specifically around rape, but even something else with they're a victim of some type of crime, maybe that's horrific as as
So the
rape or
term
maybe murder even. Could
Yeah.
this be used as an alternative to the current justice system, I wonder?
I mean, it's supposed to be, like I said, it's in our Bill of Rights. It just doesn't need to be known or used. So I would like to think that the more awareness is created about this, the more people will have the knowing to go in and say, I would like a restorative justice approach. Like the term and the method needs to be offered more awareness and publicity. So that is why I am a strong advocator for it, and I offer myself for speaking engagements or just quiet circles or whatever it is, and because it is a really important message to get out there.
I'm curious though, if someone walked into the police station to report themselves being if the police could just turn around and say, nope, sorry, that's not an option, you can't do that.
It's not, as far as I understand, because it is in our Bill of Rights to have a restorative justice.
Now, also, I'm very curious. Does the perpetrator of the crime, I mean, let's be honest, you think about rapes and crimes of such nature, I would imagine that more often than not, the person doesn't even get caught, right? So in this particular situation, did the perpetrator have to agree to this, to be part of this procedure, or?
It was offered to him that he was told that it was going to trial after our prelim trial.
Okay.
And then when she fought for this, he was offered this, he was told, like, this is what this is what the survivor would like to do. This is what it involves for you. I guess he had a choice of saying no, but his other option would be then we go to court and potentially he could be charged. So this way, it was my daughter's choice, though. He was, like, charges were dropped, right? So he has no record now. So he would have been almost, I mean, I don't want to, I would have been surprised if he hadn't opted for this. But it was also a commitment on his end to go through all that. But maybe he wanted it, maybe he hated, it sounds like at the end of the day, he hated what he did, and to get the healing that he needed to heal himself for the rest of his life. He's going to go on in life a healed person, whereas obviously before he was not. So.
Right. But if he decided that, no, I don't want that, I want to go to trial, your daughter really loses all her say in what she wants, and it has to go to trial then, right?
So I'm not entirely sure if that would have been the case.
Interesting.
But yeah. I mean, the trial is ugly, and I don't think it would have been unugly for him as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody wants that. And I think, at the end of the day, a healing option is always better. Like if you've done something really horrific and you're not sure how to, like, get yourself out of that pattern, then getting help it's offered to you now. Right?
Yeah, for sure. That's just incredible. I mean, I had no idea that this option even existed. So wow. How would you say these experiences have helped shape the Barbie you are today, do you think?
I would say this completely changed who I am as a person, as a human, as a mom, as a partner, as everything, because, like I said, back when we were in our healing cocoon, I had to learn a whole new way of being me, because what worked for her once wasn't working now. I had never dealt with, by one wrong word or expression, she was suicidal. I had to be really mindful of how I navigated my path, and in doing so, I learned so much about supporting somebody, and I learned so much about holding space for somebody, and about what trauma looks like and how it affects others and how it affected me. There was so much to learn, and I learned so much about, I felt so much into, like, how are we living in a culture that allows this to happen, and what needs to be healed in our society, because this has to stop, and what was the root of that, and all of that has brought up, everything that I am today as a coach for women, as an advocate for restorative justice. It's reshaped me completely, and in such a strong, knowing way that it feels almost bigger than myself. Like, it has to be.
This was a lot of firsts for both of you. I mean, for everybody, it's like there's no manual to help you get through this. You just have to figure it out.
Exactly.
Just like parenting in general. I mean, kids don't come with a manual.
That's
you
right.
have to just figure it
And
out.
when
And
you
of course,
think
you
you have
rely
it all
upon.
figured out at
Sorry?
21, you think you have it figured out with her.
Yeah.
And so, you know what, I said to her, she was falling, and I said to her, okay, take my hand, and I'm just not going to let you hit bottom, and we're going to figure this out as we go. And, you know, if I'm not doing it right, you're going to tell me. You know, we had a different language. We learned a different language, and we learned a different method. You know, sign language, and we had verbal language, and we had, like, everything changed.
Survival.
Everything changed, and it really did change me as a human and bring awareness to things that I knew the healing need to happen, not just in our own cocoon, but outwards everywhere. And, you know, it's a message it's a fire that burns in me very strongly today.
I'm sure it does. That's incredible. Now, you've been featured in Forbes, Great Canadian Woman, Sirius XM, and many more as a result of your daughter's experience and your experience. Does your daughter join? I know you had mentioned that you hold retreats together, but does she join you on some of these other media events or interviews? And how cathartic has all of this type of thing been for the both of you?
Yeah. There's layers to that answer, but yes, we do offer retreats together. We happily speak together when we're invited to speak together. But we both speak independently as well, because our stories come from different branches of the same root. And, you know, there are circles that want her story alone, and there's circles that want my story alone, and there's circles that doesn't matter which one of us is speaking, but they want the story. So we both do. She has spoken a lot. We both at the beginning felt, yes, there's definitely a cathartic feel. There's definitely healing. And for me, there was a need to tell my story. I needed a voice to be heard in the same way she needed a voice through the whole thing. But I felt very much for myself that I wasn't seen. The story of the mom of a survivor is a very lonely one, because you're focused very hard on your child, and everybody else is too, which they should be. But nobody said to me, like, hey, how are you?
Yeah. Are you okay, Barbie?
Yeah. And I really wasn't. Right. So it's so I work with a lot of.
Well, you're sorry to interrupt, but you're having to keep it together for two people, yourself and your daughter. That's
right. So I use an old analogy of, you know, the mom holding the car up so her baby doesn't get but I'm holding the car up while I'm sinking in quicksand.
Yeah.
Right. So it was definitely challenging. So for me, at the beginning of telling my story, it was almost a really big need in my healing process to be heard.
Right.
Right. But as I felt like I was healed, and like I really am healed from this piece, it's not the need to actually tell the story itself anymore, but to offer forward what I've received from the story itself.
So bring awareness to it.
To bring awareness to it, to help other women to rise empowered the way we learn to do, to understand the journey that women have taken, not just in my lifetime, but for my ancestors and my maternal lineage going way back, and everybody's lineage. We're healing for women. You know, it's said there's a 7-generation theory. Like, if I heal me, I heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And I step into that role with such an empowered knowing of its vital need. And I'm here to help every woman heal her own story and that of her lineage. So that chain of hurt people gets broken right now. And we're going to be the ones that break the chain.
That is so incredible. I honestly can't even put myself in your shoes to imagine if one of my daughters went through the same kind of experience, and all the shit that must have gone through your mind when it first happened, and through the whole process, and then getting into the whole restorative justice process. I can't even imagine the absolute roller coaster of emotions you've been riding through all of this. And wow, I'm blown away. It's absolutely incredible. And then to pay it forward and help other people as a result of your healing journey and your story and yours, I shouldn't say yours, but yours and your daughter's story, to give back to the community like that is just so incredible.
I think it was, thank you. Thank you for honoring that for me and for her as well. I think we both walked out of that circle that day and kind of had this knowing that it was bigger than self, and everything that, it was a culmination of everything that had happened. The end of that circle was a culmination of everything that had happened for 3 years, and all of its teachings and all of its lessons and all of this, it was like a photo montage in my head of 3 years of life that it has to be shared. It has to be, because I learned truths that other women need to be offered and helped to rise to their fullest potential. And, women have a lot of healing, and it's not just in our generation. It goes way back.
Yeah.
And, it's like I said, it feels bigger than myself.
So how soon after you walked out of that room, out of the restorative justice circle, did all of this whole media onslaught start? Like, was it immediate? Was it?
There had been one or two media people that had reached out to my daughter prior to our circle, just to sort of share her story. And she asked them to wait till after the circle. So they were kind of like on standby.
Yeah.
And following, there was a Toronto Star article that came out first. And following that, she got flooded with calls. And then it just kind of grew from there.
There must have been a point or some points where it was like, holy shit, this is just too much. Like,
yeah.
Can we get a break from this? Not that you didn't want to talk about it and put the word out there about what you'd just been through and talk about this whole process, but there must have been points where it's like, okay, I need a break.
We learned a lot about boundaries.
Yeah.
And also I always said to her through the whole journey that I'm right beside you. So and everybody, if they all want to talk to you on Thursday, like you can say when you can speak to them. And if you can't, then you can say, my mom's happy to speak to you, like it doesn't have to be, because as beautiful as what it is, it's always rooted in trauma.
Yes,
right?
Of course. So,
we learned a lot about boundaries, which is, a piece of what I work on with my ladies when I'm doing work, because most women don't have, well, maybe most people, whatever, I work with women, but most women don't have a great ability to set boundaries. We learned a lot about boundary setting and being okay with saying, I can't today, but how's tomorrow? Or really honoring everything that we're feeling and holding ourselves with compassion.
Now, back to the restorative justice process, I have another question around that is, were you and your daughter able to, because you had mentioned that you brought your lawyer was there present, and are you able to, as the victims, able to bring, like, could you have brought your other two children in on this if they wanted to be, like, do you have a say in who you bring into it?
Yeah. So the person who caused harm and the person who was harmed, they can choose whoever they want to bring to circle with them.
As many people, whatever they want?
I'm not sure if they capped it or not, but they probably do. But that was how ours played out.
Okay.
In that way.
Curious.
It was up to her who she brought.
Yeah. So she could have had her siblings with her if she wanted.
She brought me and she brought her sister.
Okay.
My other daughter.
Okay. Barbie, what would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
Wow. That's a really big one. I think because there's so many things I learned on this journey. I think that way up there is to learn to question and to learn to unlearn and to learn to hold space in a whole different way. And I think really to hold deeply the truth of my own heart and to live fully from that place.
Okay. What would you say is something that people seem to misunderstand about you?
I am definitely a person made of love, and I offer it in a quiet sort of way. And I think that it's often seen as naive. And I hold that it's not naive. It's knowing that it all comes from a place of love and I don't think of that. The power of my fire should be overlooked because it's a soft burning one rather than a
roaring, raging,
angry, blazing. Yeah, exactly.
What do you feel most grateful for in your life?
Yeah, you're going to probably be surprised by this answer because I'm definitely not grateful for what happened to my daughter, but I'm more than grateful for where I've come because of it, and it wouldn't have happened without that. So in a twisted way, I would say that took me to where I am today. So
I'm not surprised by that, actually, because look at what you've gotten out of this. As horrific as the experience was all around for your daughter, for yourself, but look at where it's taken you, the journey it's taken you on, and where you are now, what you're doing, what you're giving back because of this experience. So I think it's amazing that that is your answer. I think I actually expected that.
Yeah, I think the root of that answer would be that I'm grateful for my ability of transmutation, to turn something into something bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Who would you say have been the 3 most influential people in your life?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say definitely my children, and that would be 3 right there, but I'll lump them as children.
No, we'll put them as 1.
I'll put them as 1 because I learned so much from my children, and I've learned so much from, I would say, I would put my youngest one as a separate entity because the warrior goddess that she is inspiring to me to this day, and everything she does with her work to this day. So definitely she's up there. And I guess, I put my mother and my grandmother still. I don't have either one of them anymore, but they continue to offer me lessons.
Yeah.
So I would say,
those 3 strong pillars of strength in these women.
Absolutely.
What is your personal motto?
My personal motto. So I don't know if I have a defined motto, but I would say that I definitely live by the belief of stepping into my own power authentically and offering forward from a place of love.
Okay. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
Okay, so you're going to find a lot of the words overlap here, but yes, to me, success is achieved when you are living in your absolute truth of yourself.
I love that. That's amazing. That's a beautiful meaning. What gives you the motivation to keep going?
I have found my purpose through all this, and it definitely feels bigger than me, and it drives my fire forward. Yeah.
I mean, there had to be times where you just going through this whole process is just like, okay, I can't do this. Can I do this? Where I have to dig really deep to find that strength to keep going because you had to for your daughter's sake.
So I think that, part of the lessons I've learned and part of what I share with my clients is the ability to self-care and hold myself with compassion. So on the days that I feel that depletion, I offer myself a day for me. I'm just going to nurture that because I know that tomorrow will be fine. And then I'll keep going from there as I know that, like I said, it feels bigger than me. So I have to keep going. I'm going to, because there's a higher purpose for me. And if I need a day just to nurture myself through something, then that's what I'll do.
Well, you've certainly learned the boundaries of your strength as a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that in mind about self-care, what is the most recent investment you've made in yourself?
I just recently did. I think that in all that I'm doing, and I'm offering virtually now. And, I've been in many businesses over the years, but it's all virtual now and I'm old. So I invested in a 3-month course for myself on how to navigate this whole virtual world so I can.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My kids were tired of my asking questions and it was time for me to learn.
But that's amazing that you took that on, though. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I think I said to my daughter at the beginning, okay, I'll buy myself a new computer and I'll learn how to use it properly. I promise. It was on my vision board.
Good for you. Well, you've done it and you've invested in yourself. That's amazing. If you could set up a billboard anywhere, where would you put it and what would it say?
That's a cool question. I think it would speak to all women, and I think it would say that it's time. And I would ask, are you ready to reclaim your absolute truth, to live authentically with confidence in your own power and purpose? And I think it would probably shine all over the whole world.
Up into the sky.
Yeah.
I love it. If you were writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
That's funny. I was thinking about that yesterday. It's in my head to do one, but
and I'm sure you will.
Yeah, probably. So far, I've come up with either unlearn or reclaimed.
Those are both great titles.
Yeah. What do you think?
If you came with a warning label, what would yours say?
That my passion can be explosive sometimes.
What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Yeah. So to me, to step fully and unapologetically into the absolute truth of who you are and why you're here.
I love that. How would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as a love-filled maternal healing energy.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire. So 1, 2, 3 word answers to these ones for a few, okay?
Okay.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Loving.
If you could eat only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Chocolate.
I don't think that would sustain you, but for this
probably not. But neither would eating any one food wouldn't sustain me. So
yes,
I
very
go for
true.
it.
Chocolate. Why not? What's the first thing you think when I say the word future?
Healed.
What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
A tribe.
What makes you smile?
My kids, my clients, witnessing people rising, definitely sunshine and oceans and jungles.
Feel good stuff.
Yeah.
Money or fame?
I think a balance of both.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
My favorite way to unwind is?
Music or meditation.
Mom life is?
The best thing that ever happened to me.
I hope every mom has?
The gift of balance, the openness to learn.
And lastly, for the rapid fire, the last book or podcast I listened to or read was?
I'm reading Brené Brown's Dare to Lead.
Okay. If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what song would that be?
Helen Reddy, I Am Woman.
If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Maybe about regrets.
Okay, so do you have any?
So I've learned a lot about self-forgiveness in moments that I would regret. That's not to say the regret goes away, but it's held with more compassion. But yeah, possibly in hindsight, things I would have done different as a mom, or probably that I didn't learn all this when I was much younger.
Okay. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
To learn to take up space and voice what feels really right.
And lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
I love this question. I could give the whole speech probably, but I'll just give you the ending then. Okay. So I think I'd say that we're all here together as the animal kingdom is, or nature is, that we are one species and we're meant to be here as a family, as guests on this planet. Let us remove judgment. Let us remove patriarchal messages that have separated us. Let us come together in love and support, in celebration of each other, and let us honor each other for who each one of us is, and allow and encourage every one of us to be exactly who we're meant to be.
That's amazing. I love that message. Beautiful. Barbie, thank you so very much for taking the time to be here and share your story, your journey. You are an incredible powerhouse of a woman. You are so inspirational. Your story is inspirational. What you've been through is just wow. I'm honestly blown away, and I'm in awe of what you have accomplished and came out the other side from what you've been through. So thank you. I appreciate you more than words could say. I'm just wow. I have no words. It's amazing. This interview has been absolutely incredible. You are a wonderful, beautiful soul. I just hope you keep shining your light onto the world and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Brad. And thank you for the space to share a story and opportunity to take part in what you're doing. And yes, I'm definitely still doing what I'm doing and open to anybody who feels the want to reach out. Please feel free.
Amazing. Thank you, Barbie.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest was Barbie Liss. She is a maternal empowerment coach and advocate for restorative justice based right here in Toronto. Thank you so much, Barbie. I hope you have an amazing afternoon.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.